Hi, everyone. I'm Christina, co-founder of the Lost Sierra Wine Company, and I'm excited to be with you this week for Winemaker Wednesday. This week's topic is what makes a wine sweet or dry? We get asked this question a lot, many times over the years. And so I'm going to interview winemaker Chris. Let's get started with a glass of wine.
Sounds great to me. What are we drinking here today?
I chose the Altitude
Nice.
red blend because it goes with everything. It's just easy to drink and
Love that sound. May I pour you a glass?
yes, please.
Mm-hmm.
Tasting great these days. Thank
There
you.
Are. And a glass for me too. All right. Cheers to Winemaker Wednesday. I'm glad to have you on the episode with me.
Thank you.
All right, now let's get down to business.
First question for the winemaker is what makes a wine sweet or dry?
It's really a measure of how much sugar is left in the wine. So a sweet wine will have what we call residual sugar. It will have leftover sugar or residual sugar in the wine. A dry wine has no leftover sugar, no residual sugar in the wine.
And how much in each? So a sweet wine would have how much residual sugar in it?
So everything is by definition, of course. So by definition, a dry wine is 2 grams per liter or less. So 2 grams per liter in a bottle of wine is, think of in sugar packets. Let's talk coffee sugar packets. So a dry wine would have about a packet and a half of sugar for the entire bottle.
The whole bottle.
For the whole bottle. Anything less than that is considered dry. Sweet wines, on the other hand, really there's no limit. You can have as much sugar in there as you want. And there are some wines that have as much as 30 to 40 grams per liter is the measure of residual sugar. And that equates to almost a 30 gram per liter sweet wine equates to almost 6 packets of sugar per bottle of wine. So a pretty significant difference. Less than 2 for a dry wine and 6 or more for a sweet wine. So that's a lot of sugar in a bottle of wine.
And is that a table wine? We're just talking about a dinner wine. We're not talking about a dessert wine or a port. We're just talking about a table wine.
Great question. So yeah, the standard table wines like ours, our wines happen to be dry, but standard table wine you buy off the grocery shelf or find in a restaurant can be dry all the way up to as high, and that's pretty sweet, but as high as 30 or 40 grams per liter.
Wow. All right, we talked about the amount of sugar in the wine. So can you share with us the winemaking process that the amount of sugar ends up how much?
Yeah, so the basic winemaking process is grape sugar. You add the yeast consume all that sugar, and you end up with a dry wine. So that's the basic process, and that's the goal of winemaking, is to get the wine to be, for a standard wine, to get the wine to be dry.
No sugar left.
No residual sugar, no leftover sugar.
Got it. Yeah. All right, well, we talked about the dry wine. So now tell us the process of making the sweet wine.
Yep. So sweet wine, a couple different ways to make a sweet wine. One is to force the fermentation that we talked about before, force that fermentation to stop. So as the yeast are consuming the sugar and you have a desired level left over, you can either chill down the fermentation or run it through a filter or something like that and just stop it and cause residual sugar to be there.
Right.
The other way, and more often it's done this way, is to make a dry wine just before bottling, then add grape juice concentrate to it. So it's natural grape juice, natural sugar. It's natural sugar. It's grape juice that's been run through an evaporator, had a lot of the water removed, and it's turned it into a consistency of something close to honey. And very, very high in sugar.
All right.
So it's easy to work with, and you just add that back to
dissolves
your dry.
Into the wine.
Yep, dissolves into the wine. You add that back just before bottling to get the sugar up to the level that you want it to be.
Up to those possibly up to that 20, 30 grams that you were talking
Exactly.
about.
And so wine marketers have figured out that you add a bit of sugar back to it, and maybe you sell a few more bottles of wine with all that sugar in there. Good.
Well, where do La Sierra Wine Company wines fall in this range of dry to sweet?
Yeah. So easy answer. Our wines are very dry. As we say in the business, they are bone dry. Our wines have undetectable levels of sugar left in them, so they are dry wines. They're that way on purpose. That's the way we like our wines to taste.
And I would say that just because we're talking about dry wines doesn't mean there isn't a sweetness character to them. For example, the red blend has a bright berry character to it. The Chardonnay has a real crisp apple character to it, or a melon character. So they're dry, but the fruit sweetness is what comes through.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the altitude that we're drinking today, that blend of Pinot Noir with a little bit of Chardonnay. So there's a ton of sweet fruit coming through in this glass. It tastes amazing.
Without any additional sugar.
There's no sugar in this wine. It's very dry. So it's clean and fresh on the palate. Sometimes sugar, if there's too much in a wine, can have a heavy, muting, dampening effect on the fruit characteristics.
Okay.
So without any sugar, the way we prefer our wines, very dry, you get this nice, bright, fresh fruit. Characteristics of the vineyard and the grape varieties come through. That's the way we like our wines. Well, that's it. Thanks for joining me. Hopefully we'll see you on another episode in the future.
Yes, it was fun. I would love to come back.
And thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoyed the video, talking all about sweet versus dry wines. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.
Cheers.